So for today's topic, I wanted to share a little bit with you about confidence, because it's something that I've noticed has been coming up quite frequently in conversations I've had, in talks that I've delivered, and in training. And it's something that comes up quite often from my clients around confidence. And what I'd like to address today is, do you experience ups and downs in your confidence levels? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments. And if you have any questions on this topic, do pop them in the comments and I will endeavour to answer them during this live session or afterwards. Justina, good morning, and it's great to see you watching live from Poland. How are you doing? Hope everything is going well for you, and it'd be great to have a catch up with you. I think it's been quite some time now since we've spoken. Bianca, hello. Super glad to have a free hour in the diary to join today, joining from Manchester. Great to have you here, Bianca. Thank you for hopping on. And so when we talk about confidence, what do I mean? It's about that feeling that we have internally that has us show up in a certain way. And let me know if this is something that you experience. Maybe you experience times when you're feeling really super confident and times when you're not. And it will typically be because something has triggered you. And that's what we're going to look at today, and what you can do differently to help you to keep more of a balance in terms of your confidence levels and consistently showing up with that confidence and that certainty in yourself. Okay, so we've got Tracy. Hi, Tracy. How are you doing? Good to have you here. Justina, all good. Nice to hear you. And Jakob Rogowski, very long time. Jakob, great to have you here. And so let me know if this resonates with you, and if confidence is something that maybe sometimes you might struggle with. Maybe it's only in certain situations. And I'll give you a great and very common example of this, which is something I used to struggle with as well, and that is public speaking. So let me know if this resonates, and let me know if you've ever had a time when you've had to stand up in front of maybe a meeting room of people, or you've had to deliver a presentation and you've felt that your confidence is being thrown a little bit and you're not feeling quite as confident as maybe you normally would. And let me know if that resonates for you, if you've ever been in that situation. And here's the thing, I've been there as well. Now, as someone who's been a professional speaker for maybe the last 6 years, it's something that I've learned to overcome and to work through before I have to step up and speak, similar to today's live. And it's not unnatural to have butterflies and to experience a little bit of anxiety and nervousness. But remember, when we're standing up to speak, oftentimes if we're feeling nervous and anxious about the situation, it can directly impact the level of confidence and certainty that we have within ourselves. And here's the thing, what I always say to people when I'm mentoring them around their speaking in particular and overcoming the nerves is to be mindful of what you are focusing on. So today's show is a lot about mindset, about confidence, and how we can maintain our confidence levels at a consistent point throughout the day, irrespective of what life is throwing at us, irrespective of the situation that we find ourselves in. And I'm using public speaking presentations because that's something for most people they can get very nervous about, and often it can impact the level of confidence and the certainty in yourself in the way that you show up. And so think about it this way. What is it you're focusing on? Let me ask you this. What are you focusing on when you're standing up to speak, or when you know that imminently you're going to be going up to stand in front of a room of people, an audience, to deliver some information? Let me know what that is. Oftentimes, and I know it was this for me, is that we're focused on ourselves. So we're worrying about, do I look all right? Am I going to sound okay? What are people going to be thinking about me? Are they going to be judging me? And then we get onto the content. Will I remember my words? Will I remember what my messaging is? What I have to say? Will I mess up and say something silly? Will I just go completely blank? So there's all of those thoughts that we're having that are creating the anxiety, so the emotion that is then having us questioning our confidence or feeling a lack of confidence, let's say, when we stand up to speak. And this is the one big takeaway, if nothing else, that you take away today from this show. And that is this. It is to take the focus off of you and onto your audience. Now, whether that is one person, maybe you're having a meeting with someone senior to you and you're a little bit nervous there, whether you're speaking in a meeting and maybe you have to stand up and share some information, or perhaps you're delivering a formal presentation or a pitch, whatever it might be for you, start becoming aware of where your focus is. And when you're having those feelings of anxiety showing up, you want to shift that focus away from you and onto your audience. It's almost, if you think of it this way, what is your why? What is your purpose for what you are doing? You're doing this typically because you're looking to deliver a message or to share information or to teach or to sell, whatever it might be, or to influence a group of people. So focus on that. What is the reason that you're doing what you're doing? What is that presentation or that conversation for? So focus on the why and focus on the people in the room and in front of you. Why? Because this will take the focus off of you. Because when you focus on yourself, all of those thoughts come up that I just mentioned. So where you're questioning yourself, maybe you're having self-doubt, you're worried about forgetting what you're going to say, or how you look, or the judgment of other people. And are you good enough? Are you going to come across as smart enough? All of those things that we naturally go to in our thought processes is what will hold us back, will impact our confidence. And be aware as well that when our confidence is impacted, it also affects the way that we're showing up, because people will feel it. And wouldn't it be a great place to be, that you can consistently show up with confidence and certainty? So think about that. Let me know if this resonates, if you ever found yourself in this situation, and how was that for you? And if you've got any questions on this as well, pop them in the comments. So when you're presenting, you want to be focused on your audience. Think about, okay, who am I speaking to? Why am I speaking to them? What is the outcome that you're looking to get from that presentation or that meeting scenario, the meeting with that senior colleague? Whatever the context is, what is the outcome you're looking to gain from that? What is the message that you're wanting to get across? All of those things is focusing off of you and onto the situation or the other people or person. So once you start to do that, oftentimes the anxiety will actually shift. It will dissipate, because now the anxiety that we often get from public speaking is about all those thoughts that I've mentioned. So if you shift that onto somebody else, those feelings of anxiety, of nervousness will dissipate, which means that you'll be more certain in yourself when you show up to speak. Does that make sense? So just give that some thought and let me know if that feels like it could work for you. And I'll give you an example of this and where I have encountered a situation like this, and the process that I'm going to share with you today that you can take away from this and bring it into your everyday, not just for speaking, for presentations, but for any situation you find yourself in where your confidence is being impacted, where you feel like you haven't got that certainty that you would like in that situation. So I'm going to share that process with you in a minute. But before I do, I'd like to give you a real life example of where I went through this feeling of my confidence was being knocked and how I went through applying this process to get past that. So before I go into that, let's have a look at the comments. So we've got Brad. Hello, Brad. How are you doing? Is it sunny in Bletchley today? Milton Keynes. Melanie, hi there. Great to have you here. Thank you for hopping on. Brad, on presentations or meetings, I try and focus on three things: what message I am conveying, why am I conveying it, and the actions needed. The what, why, and the actions. Brilliant. And you know from that a lot of that has come from some of the work that we have done together. And thank you very much for sharing that. That's great. And I've seen how you've taken that on board, particularly more recently, and you've been practicing it, you've been honing it, and it's helped to have you showing up far more confidently in those presentations, in those situations. Great advice there. Thank you for sharing that, and you've articulated it really well. So it's the what are you doing, why are you doing it, and what are the actions needed? So almost what are the outcomes as well that you want from that situation. Bianca, mine is that the people in the room are likely to have more knowledge than me, and that makes me lack confidence and therefore nerves. Okay, so Bianca, let me just address that. So people in the room are likely to have more knowledge than me. is that the truth, first of all? Because when you're sharing information, yes, some people may already be aware of it and they may have knowledge about other aspects that you don't, but you also have knowledge that they don't. You might be giving them some information, but maybe from a different perspective that they've not thought of before. And so first of all, you want to think about, right, these guys and girls probably know some of this already, but some of it's going to be new, and you're delivering it with your knowledge, with your perspective, which may be different, and also with your confidence. And the angle that you come at it with can have someone receive information in a different way. So let me ask you this: have you ever heard something a second time? Use the example of a film. Maybe you've watched a film for the second time, and the second time you watched it, you think, I didn't see that the first time, or I didn't pick up on that the first time. So be mindful that even if people are familiar with your content, what you're going to be sharing, and you may feel, well, they already know this and they probably know more than you. Let's start with the first piece. They may well know or be familiar with your topic and your information that you're sharing, but it may land differently. They may hear something they've not heard before. I've heard that feedback constantly when I've spoken about a topic, and I've had the experience myself where I've heard something maybe for the third time even, and it just lands differently with me than it did the first couple of times. So that's the first thing. Now, having more knowledge than you, no, they have different knowledge from you. Okay, we all have knowledge that's drawn from our experiences, our learnings, maybe our studies, our training. So your learning, your knowledge, you're going to have knowledge that is different from what your audience have. There will be some aspects of that where you know things that maybe they don't know. But actually it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Because like I said, you'll always learn from other people. Put yourself in that situation where you maybe sat in a meeting before and someone has spoken on a topic that you're already familiar with. Do you sit there and think, oh, well, I know this all already and they don't know what they're talking about? Or, I'm not going to listen? Probably not. And I know, Bianca, you're not the person who would do that. So you're listening and you're looking to hear what else I could learn from this. And some of it you may already know, and there might be nuggets in there that you've not thought about before, you've not heard before. It's the same for everyone. So it's not a case of someone has more knowledge than you. It's that we have different knowledge. I might know things that maybe you've not looked at before or come across before, but you're going to have knowledge that I'm not aware of. So we all have different pockets of knowledge. Does that make sense? Which means that you're showing up there in your confidence about what you are going to deliver. You know your stuff, you know your content, you have the experience, you have the knowledge, you've had the training. So show up there and have certainty in yourself and what you're going to deliver, because that will go so much further just in your delivery and the way that you're showing up for people to want to engage with you, even if they've heard it all before. And the next part of that, the third part of that I would say is that this is quite common as well from a point of view, oh, they might ask me questions and I won't know the answer. And yes, I will accept there are people who will look to try and catch you out sometimes. They'll want to put people on the spot and then see if they're going to be able to deal with it. But generally speaking, it's not the case. The majority of people actually want to see you do well because they'd rather that you be up there speaking than they are. So they want to see you do well, and they'll be asking questions out of pure, genuine interest. They need to know or understand something. And if it's the case that maybe you don't know the answer, then I would always advocate to be honest and to say, I'm not sure about that. I need to double check. I don't want to give you the wrong information. Let me check on that and I will come back to you. What you do want to do from a personal branding point of view and from an integrity point of view is to be a person of your word. So if somebody does ask you a question and you don't know the answer, rather than trying to blag it when you run the risk of people seeing through you and the fact that you might be blagging it, is to be honest and to say, and you could even say, I'm not 100% sure, so I don't want to give you the wrong information. Let me just go and double check on that and I will come back to you. And give them a time or a timeline that you will come back to them in. within. So for example, it's Tuesday today. So if that was now a conversation and I was there and I'd asked you the question, you say, Leila, I'm not sure, I need to double check on that before I give you the wrong information. I'd rather check and make sure it's 100% correct. I'll be back to you by the end of play today or by Wednesday, end of play, whatever works for you. So I would advocate that because that shows integrity and it shows honesty. It helps to build trust. And when you build trust with others, that's a huge part of building a really strong relationship. And you're better off doing that than not. So Bianca, let me know if that's been helpful. First of all, in terms of, so the 3 points that I've shared there is the knowledge pockets that we have, and we all have different pockets of knowledge. Secondly, even if people have heard something before, and I'm taking this as a bit of an assumption here, that you might feel if people know more than you and you're standing up to speak, is that, well, they think, well, they've heard this all before, they know it, and they probably, you may think that they feel they know more. It's not the case. Put yourself in the receiving end of that talk or that presentation. Most people will think that they're here to learn something, they're looking for the new bits of information, and yes, there might always be pieces of information that they've heard before as well. Okay, so I hope that's helped. If that's not clear, let me know. And then the third piece of that is the Q&A. So be honest with that. If you're not sure, say that you're not sure, that you need to go and just double check something, and you'll put it to them in writing afterwards, or you'll give them a call, whichever works in the context of the conversation. So I hope that's helpful for you. So just hopping on to the example I wanted to share of where we can use a process, almost like a thought process, that will help us to overcome the lack of certainty or confidence in ourselves. And I'll give you an example of this first, and then I'll almost reverse engineer it to show you the process that you can also apply for yourselves. So the example is this. Maybe about 3 to 4 years ago, I was invited to speak at an event. And I was invited and I chose to accept. So it wasn't something that was, I had to do it. I chose to do it. And there's a reason I'm sharing that with you. And it was on a Saturday morning, and it was a multi-speaker event on the other side of London. So it came to the Saturday morning, and I had had a really full-on heavy week at work. So I was exhausted. And Saturday morning, I'm thinking, why did I agree to this? I have to get up at 6 a.m. and travel across London to be there for this event and to be speaking there. And it was raining and I was tired. I felt underprepared because I'd had a lot on at work. So I hadn't maybe put in the level of preparation that I would have liked to for that presentation. And so I arrived at the venue. Now, it had been raining, so my hair had gone frizzy, which wasn't a good look, or isn't a good look. And again, when you feel really tired, sometimes you feel like you don't look great either. And no amount of makeup is going to help. That's how I was feeling that day. So I was tired. I felt that I looked rough. My hair had gone frizzy. I felt underprepared. Okay. Now, my slot to speak was, I think, around sort of 2, 3 in the afternoon. But all speakers had to be there for the duration of the event. So as it came towards my time to speak, I was sitting at the back of the room, and I suddenly felt a huge amount of anxiety, of stress, of nervousness about this talk I was going to do. Now, I have worked over a number of years on my levels of self-awareness. So I do have a heightened level of self-awareness, and which means that when I get that emotion, that feeling come up for me, I will start to check in with myself and to analyze, where is that coming from? Okay. Now, where was it coming from? Because here's the thing. Maybe if you take me back 7 or 8 years ago, or prior to that, I would naturally be in that state before I had to stand up and speak, because I hadn't worked on this. I hadn't worked on overcoming my fear of speaking. I hadn't worked on my skills around speaking. So I didn't have any confidence around public speaking at all. So I used to be a nervous wreck. When I was at work, I used to be a wreck. When I had to think about speaking, I'd be planning for like 2-3 days ahead of time and going over it, regurgitating it, trying to learn it word for word, which I would advocate is not the way to deliver a great presentation. But I used to do it. And so for this particular situation, I'm now in a place where I've overcome my fear of public speaking. I have learned the skills to deliver a good presentation, but yet I'm feeling really anxious. So my thought process was, okay, what is causing me to feel like this? And the answer, or the answers, were the following. I don't look great. My hair's frizzy. I'm tired. I feel like I look really rough. So first of all, it's how I look. Secondly, I feel really underprepared. I'm tired, and I'll probably say something wrong. I'll forget what I'm going to say. I'll miss something out. They won't be impressed with it. All of that inner dialogue, that self-talk that we all do, that puts ourselves down, that's really critical of ourselves, that holds us back from showing up as our best self. Okay, let me know if any of this is resonating with you, if you've ever been in this situation. So all of this was going on for me. And then I thought, okay, hang on a second, Leila. This is not how I normally now show up when I'm about to deliver a presentation. What is going on? So by becoming aware of where my focus is and what thoughts I was having, I'm now in a position to shift that, to change that, to reframe it to something that will serve me better. So what was that? That's what I mentioned to you earlier. It's about actually taking the focus off of myself and onto what Brad said earlier, which is my why. Why am I there? What have I showed up here to do? What's the reason for that? What is the outcome that I'm looking for? So that's me now taking the focus off of me and all this stuff I've got going on up here to my audience. And the answers there were along the lines of, actually, I chose to do this. I was invited and I accepted, remember. And I want to do it because I want to inspire the people in the room to recognize the possibilities they have, the opportunities, and to inspire change. And what is the outcome I want is for them to come away from my talk to feel really energized, inspired, and wanting to do something differently to get a better result. So now my thought process is on my audience and what I want them to get from my presentation. Let me know if this is making sense. And so what that means is, as soon as I focus off of me and onto my why, my what, my why, and my outcomes, that anxiety, that nervousness, that knock in my confidence has shifted, it's dissipated, because I'm not worrying about me anymore. I'm worrying about, well, I'm not even worrying actually, but I'm now thinking about doing the best for the people in the room. And because my focus has shifted, the anxiety I have has gone. So by the time I got up on stage to speak, I was in a much, much better place. And as many of you will know or have heard, a lot of the work that I do with my clients is about having them show up as the best version of themselves, because when we can do that, we come across in our best way. People will remember us for all the right reasons, and they'll recognize the confidence, the certainty that you have in you. Your messaging will land differently. People will have a different perspective, a positive one of you. You'll come across with greater credibility, as knowledgeable. You'll be an authority in your subject, and that can make a huge difference. Now, I'm talking about this a lot of this example around speaking, and the reason I'm doing that is because it's an area that a lot of people get nervous about, and it affects their confidence. But this is relevant for confidence in all contexts, in all scenarios. And so that's how I dealt with that situation. So in terms of what you can take away from this to apply to yourself, these are the things I'd like you to write down. 5 words in a list. The first one is meaning. The second one is thoughts. The third is feelings or emotions. The fourth is behaviors or actions. I'm giving you a couple of words and some examples because some people resonate more with one or other of those words. And the final one is your outcome or your results. So I'll repeat that again. You've got meaning, thoughts, feelings and emotions, behaviors and actions, and results and outcomes. Those are your 5 points. And ultimately, you're looking for a great outcome in any situation that you're in, right? And your outcome or your result is driven by the actions that you take, and the behaviors that you have. And those are directly influenced by the feelings that we have going on at the time, the emotions that we're experiencing. And where did those come from? Where do those emotions, where do those feelings come from? They come from the thoughts that we're having at any point in time. And those thoughts are what we give meaning to. Let me know if this makes sense. Let me know if this is helpful. Bianca, that's really useful. Thank you. You are welcome. Let me know if you want any more guidance on that, or if you have any more questions on that, Bianca. And thank you for the question. It's a great question. Hi, Bhavin. How are you doing? Good session and well explained. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your comments. Let me know if this is resonating and if you've ever experienced this and how you've handled it. And also let me know if what I'm sharing with you now is helpful for you. So if you think about it, if I use those 5 words and relate it back to the example I gave you just now, okay, I want a really positive outcome for my audience on that day, okay, which means that I need to show up in a way that my behaviors, my actions have me showing up with real absolute confidence and certainty in myself that I can deliver my best presentation, okay, and be really engaging with the audience and have them being inspired, etc., etc. Okay, so you're seeing how those two link, right? So now if you go back a step, the way for me to be able to do that, to deliver and show up as my best self, is to then be mindful of how am I feeling right now? What are the emotions I've got going on? Because it's those feelings and those emotions that impact our levels of confidence, and they're driven by the thoughts that we're having. And the thoughts that I was having, I explained to you that I was questioning myself. I had self-doubt because I didn't feel prepared. I didn't look great. I felt tired and all of those things. That's all this stuff. That's all the self-talk. It's the inner dialogue that we have that oftentimes will hold us back. But because I go through this process and it's something I've honed and I kind of just do it naturally, I can go into that place of, okay, what's going on for me here? What is the meaning that I'm giving to this? The meaning I was given to that example is that because of all of these things that I'm saying in here, means that actually I'm not going to show up well, I'm not going to perform well in this presentation, which means that the outcome is not going to be as great as I would like it to be. The audience probably wouldn't get such a great experience as opposed to if I was really confident and having certainty in myself. Let me know if that makes sense. So this is something I'd really like you to take away from today. Is when you're in a situation where you feel that maybe your confidence is being affected in some way, is to start going through that process of, okay, what's triggering that for me? Because the confidence is a feeling, it's an emotion we've got going on of how we're feeling because of what we're saying to ourselves. It can also be what someone has said to us that has knocked our confidence. And then you want to think about what's the meaning that we're giving to that. Is it a rational meaning or not? Okay. And then by getting clear on that, by realizing what's going on for you, by realizing that if you're giving yourself a particular meaning to a situation and the thoughts that you have created as a consequence of what's either just happened or is about to happen, that's going to impact the way that you show up. It's going to impact the way that you perform if you're going out to speak. It's going to impact the way that you show up at work and the way that you go about doing your work day to day. So it can impact interactions with people. Think about this. If you think about a time when maybe you've been really angry or something has really got you going and you're like, oh my God, and then somebody says something to you and you snap at them, your immediate response is to snap. The reason you've done that is because of the emotional state that you're in. Make sense? And that emotional state that you're in has come from the thoughts that you've had, which has triggered the feelings, the emotions, that's had you maybe really riled up. So as soon as someone says something to you, even if they just say hello, maybe you just snap back because you're so worked up, you're so stressed. That's your action. That's the behavior. And that then gives you an outcome, which may not be great because if you just snapped at someone, they may not take that too well. So this is where you can adapt this to any scenario where you get to manage your state, as I call it, manage the way that you show up so that you can get to show up as your best self. You can show up with that confidence in yourself and that certainty in yourself. Why is this important? You might be thinking, well, does it really matter? Do I have to be that confident? Well, actually, think about this. Think about who you gravitate towards. Who resonates more with you in the workplace? Think about those people. When it comes to not your friends necessarily, but people that you're working with on a professional level, would you more likely gravitate to people who exude the confidence, who have certainty in themselves when they communicate with you? Or would you go for someone who maybe doesn't have that? Who would you have more trust in or respect for or want to work with or have in your team or to work for? A lot of that comes back to the confidence and the way somebody shows up. So this is really, really important for you to think about. And also in all those different scenarios, there's different contexts that this could show up in. And by applying that little formula that I shared there of those words, those are like the processes that you go through, and being aware of them, building that level of self-awareness for yourself, going back and checking in with yourself and working through those 5 steps and thinking, well, what's going on for me? What is the thought that I'm having that's having me feel like this? When you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling nervous, oftentimes it's because there's something going on, be it consciously or subconsciously in your thought process, that is causing you to feel a certain way. Would you agree with that? Let me know. And by virtue of that, those emotions will have you behave in a certain way, act in a certain way. And that will result in the outcomes that you have, the experiences that you have, and that other people have as well. So if we bring this back to the context of the workplace and your career, think about how you want to be showing up as your best self. You want to be showing up with that certainty and that confidence in you, which means that when things do happen that can knock your confidence, let's say you miss a deadline and it's a really significant deadline, let me know, what are you going to do differently? Because that might knock your confidence. You're thinking, oh my God, like my boss is going to be mad at me. My team are going to be disappointed in me. It's going to reflect really badly on me. So it might impact your confidence. So what can you do with that to shift that feeling that you've got going on so that you maintain the confidence and the certainty in yourself to keep going? Let me know if this is helpful, and share any examples you might have of where you might have applied something similar to this, or where you've been in a situation where maybe somebody has said something to you that's knocked your confidence. And how did you deal with that? Well, let me know if you have any questions on this. I do hope this is helpful and it's something that you can take away and apply today. And I'd like to also bring into that. So we've talked about the public speaking, and I've used an example of me doing that and how I've applied this into that situation. But another thing to think about here when we talk about confidence is, you might be saying, well, how can I become more confident? That comes from within. So what I'd like you to think about is, okay, what can I do to reinforce that confidence for myself? And there's 2 things I'd invite you to do to assist you with this. The first one is to always take time to reflect on your wins. And this is something that oftentimes people do not do. And I am incredibly guilty of this as well. But taking time, whether it's at the end of the day or the end of the week, to just think about what's gone on for me this week. What are the wins that I've had? What's been really good for me? And they can be big wins or they can be small wins. Doesn't have to be anything massive, significant, you know, that everyone else has to know about. It's just something that might be for you was a win. It could be you did something that you wouldn't normally do. Maybe you reached out to someone that's a bit of maybe a stranger, someone you don't know very well in your organization. And that's not something you would normally do. But that's stretching yourself. That's doing something different. So that could be a win for you. It doesn't have to be seen as a win by anybody else. It's about your personal wins. So however big or small they are, reflect on these each day and just write them down, because by writing them down, you see it in front of you and it reinforces it. And it helps to show you how far you're progressing, how far you're coming every single day. Because sometimes we miss the small things, or we're so busy we forget to celebrate the wins, and we just keep going. And human behavior tends to have us focusing on the things that went wrong, or the things that we didn't do as well at, that we would have liked to. And we come away feeling crap because of how that went, forgetting all the great things that happened that day or that week. So by keeping a note of it, by writing things down, it starts to reinforce for you all the good that you're doing, all the things that you're great at, all the wins that you're having. And that for you in itself will start to reinforce your confidence of the fact that actually I am really good at what I do. I'm having these small wins every day. And I might have missed that a few weeks ago, but now because I'm writing them out, I'm seeing all these things that I'm accomplishing. And naturally that will start to reinforce the confidence in yourself. Another thing to do is gratitude. And I always talk about gratitude as something I now do on a regular basis, is to write down things that you're grateful for. Why? Because this helps you to focus on the positive things around you. So even when things aren't going great, what are the good things that are going on for you? Because we get what we focus on. And if we focus on the good things, we focus on what we are grateful for, we will naturally see more, recognize more, and have more of that, because that's what we're choosing to focus on. So even if you've had a really bad day and you've had something gone horribly wrong, still look at what you're grateful for that day. And believe me, there's so many things, even if it's as simple as being able to see the sunrise in the morning, to have that fresh air when you go out for a walk, to be able to have a conversation with maybe one of your parents or a sibling or a loved one. They're all small things, but they're all things we can be grateful for. And so that is the other thing that I would invite you to do is first of all, look at your wins, reflect on them and write them down, and to also to express gratitude for all the good things that are going on for you. Evelina, hello there, how are you doing? This is great, Leila, well done. The way we show up is so important, and taking control of how we want to be perceived rather than being at the cause of the situation or other people is crucial for our success and well-being. Well said. I love that. That's so spot on. And that's what personal branding is all about. It's about being able to influence the way that other people perceive us by taking back control of that as far as we possibly can. Because ultimately, we're not in control of everything. We're not in control of other people's thoughts and processes. We're not on the way they process things, rather, and we're not in control of a lot of things in the big wide world. We're not in control of things like the economy or politics or the weather or the pandemic. All of these things are outside of our control. So what can we control? My invitation is to control what we can and influence what we can. And by doing that, we get to be able to influence the way other people perceive us by showing up as the best version of ourselves. Thank you, Evelina. Great share then. Great to have you here. So let me know if this has been useful for you. And if you have any questions, I'll give you a couple of minutes. If you've got anything you want to type in to share, let me know if it resonates, if this has been helpful for you, and how you're going to apply this in your day-to-day life. And remember, I'll just remind you of those words again. So you've got the meaning, the thoughts, the feelings or emotions, the actions and behaviors, and the results or the outcomes. So if you start to check in with yourself on that on a regular basis, it will then start to become habitual, and you'll just do it naturally, which means you'll be able to catch yourself and almost recalibrate to be able to continue showing up with certainty. And my invitation, if you are feeling that you're struggling with confidence and that how can I be more confident, is to start looking at yourself and thinking, actually, look at all these great things that I'm doing, that I'm achieving, and how far I've come, and making a note of them, writing them down, taking the time to look at that and reflect on it. Really, really important. And also to do your gratitudes, even if it's just 2 or 3 things a day, that's absolutely fine. It doesn't have to be a great long list. It doesn't have to take hours. just a couple of minutes before bed or first thing in the morning to write down 3 things that you're grateful for. And the more you start to do it, the more you'll start to realize how much you do have to be grateful for. And the reason for this, or for doing this, is again to focus on the positive things around us, because the positive things that we focus on will naturally influence our state, the way that we show up, and in turn our confidence. Because there's also a saying you may have heard that where our focus goes, energy flows. And if we're focusing on the good things, the positive things, if we're focusing on our wins, our gratitudes, the energy will flow there. We'll see more of that, we'll experience more of that, and therefore we'll be able to consistently show up with that confidence. So I'm not seeing any more comments or questions coming in. So I'll give you a couple of minutes. Let me know if this has resonated, if this has been helpful. And let me see if I've missed anything. No, I think I've caught all the questions there. That's great. So I'd like to say thank you for joining me today, live or on the replay. I do hope this has been helpful. If you do have any questions on what I've shared today, comment in this post and I will come back to you. Just tag me in, or by all means direct message me and we can hop on a call and have a conversation, and I'll look to help you as much as I possibly can. So until next time, I would like to say to you, remember to build your influence, to make an impact, and to be remembered for all of the right reasons by showing up as the best version of yourself. I look forward to seeing you same time, same place next week. Until then, do take care.